All right, so good afternoon.
Good
Okay,
afternoon,
please,
Doc.
please turn on your videos. Yeah, so today we'll have your lecture on antipsychotic agents and lithium. So hopefully we'll end by 3:30 so that you can, or before 3:30 so that you can proceed immediately to your post-lecture quiz. Um, Other than that, if we extend a bit, we'll do it at 4 o'clock. Okay. So let's just begin. No? So antipsychotic agents, or otherwise known as neuroleptic drugs, are a group of drugs that are used to treat schizophrenia and other psychosis and agitated states. So historically, you have your first generation antipsychotic agents, which have been used for actually more than 50 years already. Now, newer agents today would include haloperidol, olanzapine, and risperidone. Although haloperidol belongs to your typical antipsychotic class. So we'll mention later on the difference between your typical and atypical antipsychotics. Now, with the advent of pharmacologic treatment ng mga pasyenteng may schizophrenia, we have actually reduced the number of inpatient or institutionalization of patients with schizophrenia. And this would also, in a way, emphasize the point that schizophrenia is a biologic illness. And there are problems with the neurotransmitters, and it's not just, an illness brought about by a patient's social circumstances, but it is a biological illness that can be treated. And hopefully, it gives us an idea to somehow reduce the stigma associated with mental health illnesses. So just to be clear with some of the definitions and the terms we are going to use, let's just describe the nature of psychosis and schizophrenia. Now, psychosis is the term used to describe a variety of mental disorders, while schizophrenia is a specific example of psychosis, characterized by a clear sensorium but with marked thinking disturbance. So we won't need to define at this point the different criteria for diagnosing schizophrenia, but you can easily Google and look at your references using this DSM-5 criteria. So the schizophrenia and psychosis have a known pathogenesis, although there are known genetic predispositions, so including presence of certain genes like ureglin-1, and there is a known abnormality in amine neurotransmitter function, especially with the function of dopamine. So just to review, so remember the function of dopamine and the dopamine receptors in your central nervous system. We typically refer to your dopamine 2 type of receptors. And their main function in the CNS is inhibitory, when dopamine receptors are stimulated. So certain drugs, as you know, are antagonized by can be used to modulate the effects of dopamine. So older antipsychotics are what is more commonly known as your typical antipsychotics, antagonize dopamine receptors. And I think you had your lecture 2 weeks ago regarding neurodegenerative disorders. You know that dopamine receptors can be activated by anti-Parkinsonian drugs. And you also know that when you go to your lecture on drugs of abuse, amphetamine and cocaine can also indirectly stimulate dopamine receptors. So just to review, so you know that dopamine is an example of a catecholamine, and ang precursor niya would be the same as your norepinephrine. So if you look at this process, this is actually identical doon sa synthesis ng dopamine. And may pare-pareho siya ng similar enzymes yung ginagamit niya. No? You have the precursor tyrosine. It is transformed or catalyzed to become DOPA by the enzyme tyrosine hydroxylase. And then DOPA is converted to dopamine by the enzyme DOPA decarboxylase. Yeah. Of course, in noradrenergic neurons, dopamine is converted to norepinephrine by your dopamine beta hydroxylase. And we know that dopamine has low inhibitory effects in the central nervous system. Its distribution is more restricted than noradrenaline, but as you remember uh, in the hierarchical organizations in the brain, ang dopamine has diffuse yung kanyang distribution, no, ng kanyang mga projections in the brain. So there are several major pathways or projections of dopamine in the brain. So you have the nigrostriatal pathway, which is responsible for voluntary motor control. The mesolimbic and the mesocortical pathway, which is responsible for its effects, and the tubulohypophyseal system, which is responsible for endocrine control, primarily prolactin secretion. So I think you're familiar with the nigrostriatal pathway because you already had your lecture on Parkinson's disease. So this would be important for us to understand because this would help us to understand the mechanisms of toxicity and explain why there are specific adverse effects associated with especially your typical antipsychotics. So we have two main families of your dopamine receptors, but in this case, we primarily focus on the D2 subtype of your dopamine receptors, which is under the D2 family of receptors. So recall that dopamine receptors are G protein coupled receptors. No? And if you look at the activity that is shown here, pagka na-stimulate siya ng dopamine, it results in inhibitory effects in the brain. So activation of potassium channels postsynaptically. So pagka lumabas yung potassium, magiging more negatively charged yung membrane potential. Then you have inactivation of calcium. So presynaptically, will reduce yung release ng mga neurotransmitters. And there will be signal transduction linked by your adenylyl cyclase or your phospholipid hydrolysis. So controlling arachidonic acid. So clinical conditions associated with dopamine include the following. So we'll focus for this particular lecture on schizophrenia. Now in schizophrenia, that is the primary theory is that there is meron tayong mga negative and positive symptoms. So ano ba example ng mga positive symptoms? These are paranoia, yung mga delusions, illusions. So this is associated with high dopamine levels in the mesolimbic tract. Okay. In contrast, the negative symptoms of schizophrenia, such as social withdrawal and symptoms similar to depression, are associated with low dopamine levels in the mesocortical tract. Okay, so high dopamine in the mesolimbic results in the positive symptoms, while low dopamine levels in the mesocortical results in the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. So we'll skip the other parts kasi sa ibang subjects naman yung Parkinson's tsaka yung sa addiction. So we already mentioned that drugs that block the activity of dopaminergic pathways may be used in the treatment of schizophrenia, but may also cause Parkinsonian symptoms. We will explain that better later on. I'll skip this part. No, this is just to illustrate to you, the drugs and the other mechanisms ng ibang mga drugs that can modulate dopamine. Yeah. So the dopamine hypothesis of schizophrenia is actually was discovered or explained by circumstantial evidence. So, hindi siya parang immediately yun yung kanyang na madaling agad na explain na mechanism. So it was circumstantially discovered that many of the antipsychotic drugs strongly block postsynaptic dopamine 2 receptors, primarily in the mesolimbic frontal system. And circumstantially, it was noted that drugs that increase dopaminergic activity na-aggravate niya yung schizophrenia or can produce symptoms similar to psychosis. So for example, levodopa, which is a precursor of dopamine, amphetamines, which release dopamine from the presynaptic vesicles, and apomorphine, which is a direct dopamine receptor agonist. So all of these 3 drugs can aggravate schizophrenia or produce psychosis. Other circumstantial evidence would include increased dopamine receptor density in brains of patients with schizophrenia na hindi sila na-treat pa ng antipsychotic drugs. So when you have increased receptor density, remember the concept of spare receptors, that they are more sensitive to the effects of dopamine when you have more receptors. PET scans also showed increased dopamine receptor density both in treated and untreated schizophrenics. And successful treatment of schizophrenia in patients changes the amount of the homovalinic acid, which is a metabolite of dopamine. So there's an alteration in the dopamine levels in the CNS upon treatment. However, the dopamine hypothesis of schizophrenia is incomplete, because the abnormal dopamine physiology does not fully explain the mechanisms and the symptoms associated with schizophrenia. Traditional drugs, which are strong dopamine antagonists, are only partially effective for most patients and not effective for some patients. And also, certain drugs such as phencyclidine, which is an NMDA receptor antagonist, they also produce schizophrenia-like symptoms. So there could be interactions between dopamine and the NMDA receptors. We will explain that later on in the next slides. Yeah. So itong mga dopamine receptors natin, pinakita natin that there are two broad families, and under each family there are several subtypes. Traditional antipsychotics avidly bind to your dopamine 2 receptors, but it is still being studied whether other dopamine receptor subtypes may be involved in the pathophysiology of schizophrenia. Now, the new directions sa pagdevelop ng drugs in schizophrenia would focus on mediating synergistic effects or protecting against extrapyramidal symptoms. So the main focus would be to develop drugs that have different targets, pwedeng ibang dopamine receptor subtypes or other non-dopamine receptors. So that's why yung ating mga atypical antipsychotics, meron silang, they are also known as your serotonin dopamine antagonists because they also antagonize your serotonin receptors, particularly the 2A subtype. So the goal is to produce drugs with greater efficacy and with fewer adverse effects. And so this table will just give you a brief description of the different spectrum disorders and schizophrenia. So, but you don't need to memorize this. It's just to make you familiar with the terms that can be used and the different indications. So schizophrenia spectrum disorders would include schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, delusional disorders, and your schizotypal personality disorders. Okay, so ito yung mga pwede natin paggamitan ng mga antipsychotic agents. So let's go now to the basic pharmacology of your antipsychotic agents. So this figure shows to you the chemical structure of the older antipsychotic drugs. So, or what is known as your typical antipsychotics. So, just keep in mind, no, you don't need to memorize yung mga chemical structure, pero siguro yung mga examples per chemical class. So for ang pinakauna nating mga drugs will be the phenothiazine derivatives such as chlorpromazine, pyridazine, etc. Tapos, itong mga drugs na to, the phenothiazine derivatives plus the thioxanthin derivatives, currently hindi na siya masyadong ginagamit ngayon for schizophrenia, but they have indications other than schizophrenia. So usually mga non-psychiatric indications, which we will mention later on. So bakit siya ganun? So pag sinabi kasi natin na typical antipsychotics, what is the general characteristic? They bind to dopamine 2 receptors, but they also bind to other receptors. So such as histamine, your muscarinic receptors, and your adrenergic receptors, and to some extent your serotonin receptors. So primarily yung apat lang, no? Dopamine, histamine, muscarinic receptors, and adrenergic receptors. So as antagonists to these receptors. So their efficacy as antipsychotics is mediated by their blockade ng dopamine receptors. However, some of their adverse effects, no, are associated with the blockade ng iba nilang receptors. Now, among the typical antipsychotics, haloperidol, which is the only member of the butyrophenones that is still being used today, siya yung may pinakamataas na affinity sa dopamine receptors. So that's why among the older antipsychotics, yung haloperidol pa rin yung ginagamit ngayon, particularly for schizophrenia. Okay? Now we look now at the chemical structures of the different newer antipsychotics, or what is otherwise known as your atypical antipsychotic agents. Okay, so you have pimozide, clozapine, risperidone, quetiapine, olanzapine. So you have your different examples here, and we will show you later on the different affinities. So, but I think what is important for you to note is that itong mga newer antipsychotic drugs natin, they are atypical, meaning they don't subscribe to the classic dopamine hypothesis theory, because hindi dopamine yung kanilang primary receptor na inhibit, o hindi lang dopamine yung kanilang binablock. Yeah. So dati no, nung wala pa yung haloperidol, ito yung commonly na binibigay, no, chlorpromazine, no, pyridazine, and then your thiotixine. Pero clinically, no, ngayon haloperidol is the most widely used, no. They have haloperidol has a different structure from those of the two preceding chemical groups ng older antipsychotic agents. So they are more potent and have fewer autonomic effects. However, they have greater extrapyramidal effects. So because they are strong dopamine 2 antagonists, yung pa pinakita natin yung mga projections kanina. And since dopaminergic pathways are diffuse, so hindi naman natin malolocalize lang yung effect ng dopamine blockade in just one track. Okay, so pwede niya maapektuhan yung iba't ibang mga dopaminergic tracks. Yeah. So this table now shows you the relation of chemical structure to their potency and toxicities. And if you note, yung mga older agents natin, they have generally high to very high D2 over your 5 or of your serotonin to A ratio. Ibig sabihin, mas mataas yung affinity nila doon. And if you also look at the extrapyramidal toxicity, generally, pagka mas mataas yung affinity niya o mas mataas yung affinity niya sa dopamine 2 receptors, mas mataas yung kanilang extrapyramidal na toxicity. Yan. So yung mga ibang toxicity like sedative action or hypotensive action will be mediated by the different receptors, so which we will mention later on. So hindi nyo kailangan memorize itong table na to ha. So just for you to be familiar. So let's go to the general characteristics ng ating mga antipsychotic agents. So most of these agents are readily but incompletely absorbed. They undergo significant first-pass metabolism with the following relative oral bioavailabilities of the different agents. So if you look at among the older agents, haloperidol has the highest, 65% oral bioavailability. Most of them are highly lipid soluble and protein bound, which is expected, because you want them to be able to accumulate in the tissues, particularly in the central nervous system. Okay, so this is logically explained as well with the high, logically then is large ang VD, so ibig sabihin it is accumulated in the tissues. So that there's lipid compartment sequestration and high affinity to your neurotransmitters in the central nervous system. So expectedly, there will be a longer clinical duration of action than their estimated plasma half-lives. Antipsychotics are almost completely metabolized by the liver. Some metabolites retain their antipsychotic activity. However, majority of the metabolites are inactive, with the exception of mesoridazine, which is the major metabolite of thyroidazine, na mas potent siya than the parent compound. Okay, but generally, metabolism results in the generation of inactive metabolites. So very little is excreted unchanged and almost completely metabolized to your more polar, easily excretable form. So what would be the pharmacologic effects of your antipsychotics? As you recall, the dopaminergic systems, so remember the mesolimbic and mesocortical for behavioral, nigrostriatal for the voluntary muscle motor control, and the tuberoinfundibular, which is associated with prolactin secretion. So itong medullary, periventricular, and insert hypothalamic, this may be associated in eating behavior. Yung former, itong insert hypothalamic, siya, hindi siya ganun ka-relevant, in the human populations. Yeah. So as you were saying, in relation to the tracts, they have effects that are yung kanilang activity on the dopamine receptors and adenylyl cyclase. And basically, inhibitory effect nga siya, di ba? So this inhibitory effect would be the stimulation of the dopamine receptors will have inhibitory effects. And this can be blocked by most of your antipsychotics. So the antipsychotic action is mediated by the action on the mesolimbic and mesocortical tracts. Now, however, yung drug-induced Parkinsonism is due to the blockade of dopamine in the nigrostriatal tract. So if you remember, di ba, kailangan sa nigrostriatal tract mayroong balance ng action ng dopamine sa acetylcholine. So kapag hindi na, pagka block yung action ng dopamine, ano mangyayari? Mas mangingibabaw yung action ng acetylcholine, which is typically what we'll also see in a patient with Parkinson's disease. When you have dopaminergic neuron degeneration. So kaya mas mangingibabaw din yung effect ng acetylcholine. So kaya with the typical antipsychotics, no, ito yung common na nakikita. Now, another common adverse effect that is seen would be hyperprolactinemia. Because normally in the tuberoinfundibular tract, dopamine would inhibit prolactin. So, logically, if we block dopamine, what will happen? Tataas yung prolactin levels. And what could be the common manifestations of hyperprolactinemia? So you can have galactorrhea, or you can have gynecomastia. So these are the symptoms associated with hyperprolactinemia. Then of course, you can have other psychiatric, neurologic, and endocrinologic consequences. Okay. So, sige, I'll skip this part. Ang focus lang naman natin dito talaga itong D2, no? The action of D-dopamine 2 sa mga majority, no? Kasi ito yung primary target natin. So, just to emphasize lang itong effects ng dopamine and receptor mechanisms. So, hindi ko na siguro masyado itong i-focus sa exam. No? This is just to recall, kasi this was lectured to you in the intro to CNS drugs, correct? Yung function ng dopamine and the receptor mechanisms. So, na-mention rin natin nga kanina that dopamine 2 receptor activation can result in symptoms similar to schizophrenia. So, amphetamines, levodopa, apomorphine, we already mentioned these. No? And in animal studies, no, giving these drugs, no, with actual, in animal models, no, siya yung ginagawang basis ng mga pag-screen for antipsychotic drugs. So they result in the stereotype repetitive behavior in animal models. And kapag gumawa ng study, ito yung tinitreat to and nare-reduce dapat yung stereotype behavior pagka nag-induce ka ng ganitong behavior in animal models. Yeah. So there could be other dopamine receptors that are involved, no? So pero hindi pa yan well explained. So yung mga question, hindi pa nga sabi nga din kanina, hindi siya fully explained, no? May mga ibang drugs that have high and low affinity sa dopamine receptors. And it is not known if schizophrenia or the antipsychotic drugs alter the proportion of receptors in the CNS. And also, mayroon ibang mga drugs that do not function typically, like your aripiprazole is a partial agonist at the dopamine 2 and the serotonin 1A receptors. And if you remember, pagka partial agonist siya, ano nangyayari? In the presence of a full agonist, diba, it can act like an antagonist. So there's still many questions, no, sa neurochemical imbalances associated with with schizophrenia. Yeah. So other effects, you have drug-induced extrapyramidal symptoms. So it takes months of use. No? However, yung mga newer drugs natin, sabi na nga natin, they have lower dopamine 2 receptor affinity, which suggests that additional actions can lead to antipsychotic effects, no, other than blocking dopamine 2 receptors. So kaya nga meron tayong atypical antipsychotics which have significant affinity for the serotonin 2A receptor. So there's a role of the serotonin system which we will explain later on. So hindi ibig sabihin na wala na silang dopamine receptor activity. No? Pero parang mas nangingibabaw itong serotonin 2A subtype receptor activity nila. And then you have other possible contributing receptors and neurotransmitters. So this figure just shows to you the difference ng affinities ng mga different antipsychotic drugs. And in-emphasize ko lang dito yung equal, no? Yung equal affinity ng dopamine 2 sa serotonin 2A. You don't need to, for me, you don't need to memorize this, no? Kasi clinically naman, yung mga pasyente may or may not respond, no, to the drug, no? And hindi siya parang one-shot deal na pagka ito drug binigay mo, mag-e-effect na siya agad. So it's just to show you na iba-iba sila ng affinity, no? So pero alin ba dito ang mga typical? So ang typical dito would be chlorpromazine and haloperidol, and then the rest are atypical antipsychotics. I think what I want you to take note of is this table, no? Itong mechanism ng adverse pharmacologic effects, no, ng mga antipsychotics. So sa exam, pagka tinanong mo, may isang patient, nagtitake ng typical antipsychotic, tapos nag-manifest siya with orthostatic hypotension, for example, the most likely receptor na affected would be the alpha adrenoreceptor, particularly alpha-1 receptors. So pagka naman tardive dyskinesia, dopamine. I will explain later on these terms, no? Yung tardive dyskinesia. And then you have your toxic confusional state. So basta itong table na to, lagyan na asterisk sa inyong mga notes, no? Para ma-focus nyo. And marami akong tanong dito sa exam. Okay? So please take note of this table. Okay. So, and also this slide, no? So sabi natin kanina, yung mga typical antipsychotics, no? They bind to dopamine 2 receptors, but they also bind to other receptors. So for example, thioridazine and chlorpromazine particularly bind or strongly bind to your muscarinic receptors, while chlorpromazine also strongly binds your alpha adrenergic receptors. So this would explain, for example, why mas mataas ang risk ng orthostatic hypotension with your chlorpromazine. Or for example, promethazine has particularly strong affinity to your histamine 1 receptor, so that's why it has sedative effects. So ito yung ibig sabihin ng mga asterisk dito. And this would explain give us the rationale, no, kung bakit ginagamit siya for indications, no, other than your psychosis or schizophrenia. So we'll mention later on the different indications as well. Yeah. So just to be clear, no? So ano ba yung sabi natin, di ba, dito sa mechanism of action in the different dopaminergic pathways. So sa mesolimbic, ano sabi natin? Kapag sa mesolimbic pathway, ano nagkukos ng positive symptoms? Pagka mataas o mababa ang dopamine?
High po.
High levels, correct. So giving your pure dopamine 2 blocker would result in improvement of your positive symptoms. Yeah. So all of your conventional or typical antipsychotics, no, would strongly block your dopamine receptors. Pero sabi nga natin, hindi naman posible na dopamine receptors lang yung iba-block niya. So pwede rin niyang ma-block yung ibang dopamine receptors. Kaya here in the mesocortical pathway, so ano nangyayari? Sabi natin yung negative symptoms is due to low dopamine in the mesocortical tract. So ano mangyayari pag nagbigay ka ng strong dopamine 2 agonist? Will the negative symptoms worsen or will they improve? What do you think will happen? O parang nandito na sa table, nasa picture na. So kapag nag-block ka ng dopamine receptors, mababa na nga sa doon baseline, tapos blinak mo palalo, kaya na-worsen yung negative symptoms. So that's why so your typical antipsychotics can worsen or increase negative symptoms. So also we explained earlier yung drug-induced Parkinsonism sa nigrostriatal tract. Kaya nagkakaroon ka ng mga extrapyramidal symptoms. And then in the sa pagkamatagal na, so long-term blockade, what will happen? So long-term blockade will result in yung tinatawag na tardive dyskinesia. So this is due to the parang dopamine receptor supersensitivity. Parang nandun yung sa table kanina. Parang nagkaroon ka ng upregulation ng dopamine receptors because of the prolonged blockade, no? And in many patients, no, pag long-term treatment, pwedeng maging irreversible siya, yung tardive dyskinesia. So, yung tardive dyskinesia, yung parang, parang slow, yung hyperkinetic disorder. So, ng mga pasyente na naka-long term na antipsychotic, typical antipsychotics. Ano bang mga common manifestation ito? Mga facial and palm movements, to parang constant chewing, tongue protrusions, facial grimacing, as well as yung mga lip movements na pwedeng maging quick or jerky o parang cuneiform. So yun yung manifestations ng tardive dyskinesia. So if removed early enough, pwedeng ma-reverse ito, no? But it can be irreversible, no? Kahit na i-discontinue na yung drug pagka matagal na tinitake. Ito naman yung sa hyperprolactinemia. So we explained earlier. So kailangan lang natin tandaan dito is the basic principle, no, that dopamine normally inhibits prolactin. So pagka na-block yung dopamine, tataas ang prolactin levels. Okay. So yan. So na-explain lang niya dito. So ang dilemma natin nga ngayon, highly effective itong mga typical, pero ang dami rin niyang adverse effects. So kaya gusto natin, kaya gumawa ng mga gumawa tayo ng mga bagong drugs. So yan, ito yung mga adverse effects nila. So ito yung later we'll mention the neuroleptic malignant syndrome, which is actually similar to parang malignant hyperthermia. So which is seen with as an adverse effect of some of your anesthetic agents and skeletal muscle relaxants. Yeah. So ito yung mga blockade naman sa mga iba't ibang receptors, no, other than the dopamine receptor, muscarinic, alpha, histamine receptors. So blockade ng muscarinic receptors will result in dry mouth, blurring of vision, constipation, cognitive blunting. Now, however, the degree of the anticholinergic effects will also have a different effect on the extrapyramidal symptoms. So typically, if the antipsychotic has less anticholinergic effects, so mas mataas yung extrapyramidal symptoms niya. Pero kasi nga di ba, mag-ibabaw yung dopamine, pero konti lang yung anticholinergic effect niya, so mas worse yung kanyang extrapyramidal symptoms. Pero kapag strong yung anticholinergic effect ng drug na yon, hindi ganun ka-significant yung extrapyramidal symptoms ng patient. So kaya, this has led to some of the historically ginagawa, na para kung nagkakaroon man ng extrapyramidal symptoms yung patient, binibigyan sila ng may iba pang drug na may anticholinergic effect. So this has led to the common strategy of giving anticholinergic drugs along with conventional antipsychotics in order to reduce the extrapyramidal symptoms. However, it has been shown that concomitant use of these anticholinergic agents, hindi naman daw niya nalilesa yung ability of the conventional antipsychotics to cause tardive dyskinesia. So parang nagkakos pa rin siya ng tardive dyskinesia. And in itself, the anticholinergic drugs can produce the side effects like the dry mouth, constipation, and urinary retention. So, what else? So, pag sabi na natin ito, na pag histamine 1 blockade, drowsiness. Also, alpha 1 blockade, so decreased blood pressure, dizziness, and drowsiness. So, ano ngayon yung ginagawa ng mga atypical antipsychotics? So, from a pharmacological perspective, they are characterized as serotonin dopamine antagonists. So, and clinically, ang nakikita natin sa kanila, hindi ganun ka-significant yung extrapyramidal symptoms. They also have efficacy for negative symptoms. So, ito yung mga common na na examples ng ating mga atypical antipsychotics. Yeah. So, basically, dalawa yung kanilang binablock, no? Serotonin and dopamine. So ano yung sinabi natin kanina? So, anong kanilang interaction? No? Serotonin and dopamine. So, serotonin inhibits, so tandaan natin, serotonin inhibits dopamine release. Okay? Yung tandaan natin. Serotonin inhibits dopamine release. So, therefore, if you have a serotonin antagonist, what will happen? Dopamine will increase or decrease?
Increase.
Increase, correct. So, ang main goal natin dito is that itong mga drugs na to, basically, what they will do is that they will increase dopamine in the tracts where you want dopamine to be increased. Pero, ang maganda sa kanya is they still block avidly the dopamine receptors in the mesolimbic tract. Okay? So, ang mangyayari, bababa pa rin yung effect ng dopamine in the mesolimbic tract, pero tataas yung dopamine in the mesocortical, nigrostriatal, and the tuberoinfundibular. Okay? So kaya, may improve lahat ng symptoms. No? Meron kang improvement ng positive symptoms, improvement ng negative symptoms, less extrapyramidal symptoms, and less hyperprolactinemia. Okay? So ito ang mga next slides will just illustrate that. No? Pero bakit niya hindi naman, ba't hindi niya na pinapababa yung dopamine sa mesolimbic tract? So parang sinasabi lang dito na hindi siya ganun ka-avidly nagbabind ay nagbablock ng serotonin ay ng serotonin in the mesolimbic tract. So sa nigrostriata, ito yung nangyayari sa kanya, no? So basically what it will do is that it will increase the dopamine secretion in the nigrostriatal tract when you inhibit yung serotonin. Kaya less yung kanyang effect sa pag-cause ng extrapyramidal symptoms. Yeah, so ito yung pag-block na ng serotonin, kaya eventually tataas na yung So parang bablock niya muna yung dopamine receptors, pero eventually magbablock din siya ng serotonin receptor mo. Tapos magre-release ka ng dopamine, yung dopamine madi-displace na niya yung mga dopamine, yung mga atypical antipsychotic that is blocking the dopamine receptors. So kaya nagkakaroon ng disinhibition. And this is the same thing that would happen in the mesocortical tract. No? Kaya may improve yung negative symptoms. Yeah. Also dun sa tuberoinfundibular tract. So mesolimbic pathway and the pharmacology na improved positive symptoms. So evidently, the antagonism by the serotonin sa effects of dopamine sa pathway na to, hindi siya robust enough to cause reversal ng pag-block ng dopamine receptors by the typical antipsychotics. So yun yung kanyang hindi siya ganun, hindi ganun ka-avidly niya na ba-blunt yung effect ng dopamine dito. Kaya basically mataas pa rin yung blockade ng dopamine in the mesolimbic tract. Okay? May questions ba on that aspect? So basta kung medyo magulo siya, tandaan niyo na lang. Basta sa mesolimbic tract, block pa rin yung dopamine. Tapos dun sa ibang tract, mawawala yung blockade sa dopamine, tataas yung dopamine. Kaya mawawala yung EPS, yung negative symptoms, at saka yung hyperprolactinemia. Yeah. So ito lang yung mga examples, no? I will not go through much of the specific na kasi sa Katzung, hindi niya masyadong in-explain yung mechanism na yun. So I had to look for another reference so that you will understand better why the atypical antipsychotics work in that way. So ito yung mga general characteristics ng mga atypical antipsychotics. So ngayon, ano naman yung mga unfavorable adverse effects ng mga atypical antipsychotics? So ito yon, yung weight gain, sedation, seizures, or granulocytosis. Particularly for clozapine. So kailangan pwede mataas yung risk for granulocytosis. And then the rest would be more on metabolic. So kaya yung monitoring sa kanila, iba yung minomonitor kapag naka-atypical antipsychotic yung pasyente. Yeah, so in practice, so maraming mga atypical antipsychotics and iba't iba yung kanilang mga pharmacological and clinical actions. And although hindi pa clear why the atypical antipsychotics differ from each other, the answer is most likely to be found sa kanilang mga pharmacologic properties other than their serotonin to a dopamine to antagonism. Iba't iba rin sa yung kanilang mga affinity, no? Depende on the So kaya pwedeng marami pang ibang receptors na binablock sila na hindi natin talaga pa well identified. Yeah. So ang goal natin talaga is yung magkaroon ng, kasi yung pasyente, sa mamaya, papakita natin sa choice ng drug. Iba't iba yung response sa antipsychotic agent. So, some would respond better to the old drugs, some would respond better to the new drugs. So the best guide for the choice of antipsychotic agents is the patient's response. And not walang drug na parang ito yung pinaka-effective. So it really depends on the patient's response. So just to go through some of the newer theories sa schizophrenia, yung correlation nga niya sa NMDA. So ang na-observe is that phencyclidine, which is an NMDA blocker, can produce psychotic conditions na very similar to the positive symptoms ng schizophrenia, such as hallucinations and delusions. So ang theory dito is that NMDA receptor hypofunction increases the dopamine in the mesolimbic pathway. So parang mayroong interaction between the NMDA receptor and the dopamine receptors, such that if there is NMDA receptor hypofunction, so tumataas yung levels ng dopamine sa mesolimbic pathway, kaya nagkakaroon ng symptoms similar to schizophrenia. So similarly, phencyclidine can also mimic the cognitive and negative symptoms ng schizophrenia. So NMDA receptor hypofunction can also decrease the dopamine in the mesocortical pathway through some interactions between them. So ito lang, so the goal, the next step now is to develop possibly drugs that can act on the NMDA receptor to address schizophrenia. Pero ngayon wala pa tayong mga drugs for that. Pero this has been established na may effect ang NMDA receptor hypofunction sa schizophrenia. And this could be a new target of drugs in the future. Yeah. So let's go now to the clinical effects. So psychologically, pagka ang isang pasyente hindi naman siya psychotic, pero binigyan mo ng antipsychotic agents, this will result in unpleasant subjective effects such as sleepiness, restlessness, autonomic effects, and impaired performance sa kanilang psychomotor and psychometric tests. But if given to psychotic individuals, na-improve yung kanilang performance. There is also increased synchronization, and which says, so pag increased synchronization, this could increase the risk for seizures. So, di ba pagka synchronization is when nagkakaroon ng parang sunod-sunod siya or sabay-sabay, na pag-generate ng impulses in the brain. So, kasi di ba dapat it should be functionally, di ba ang brain naman hindi naman siya parang, it depends on the function being needed at the moment. Pero pag sabay-sabay silang na-activate, yun yung synchronization. And this could be increased in patients who are taking antipsychotic agents. Now, for the endocrine effects, it would also depend on whether the drug is an older or a newer antipsychotic. So kung lumang drug siya, in women, there could be amenorrhea, galactorrhea, and ferment, decreased libido, and gynecomastia, again related to hyperprolactinemia. And secondarily, due to increased peripheral conversion of androgens to estrogens. Pero sa newer antipsychotics, this is generally absent, itong mga endocrine na effects. For the cardiovascular effects, yung mga low-potency phenothiazines, so these can be associated with orthostatic hypotension and high resting heart rates, increased BP, increased mean arterial pressure, peripheral resistance, and stroke volume are decreased. And may mga predictable na autonomic actions based on what we showed you earlier, dun sa adrenergic and muscarinic receptors. Pwede rin mag-result sa abnormal ECG tracings. So sa mga old agents, pyridazine can cause a prolonged QT interval and abnormal ST segment and T waves. Pagka naman sa mga bago, sertindole and ziprasidone can prolong the QT. And again, anong problema natin kapag nagkakaroon ng QT prolongation ng QT interval? What type of arrhythmia can it produce pagka may prolonged QT interval?
Torsades de Pointes.
Correct. To the Torsades de Pointes type of your arrhythmias. Yeah. Hindi ko na masyadong itong test, itong slide na to. This is just to show you. Kunyari, mayroong mga nag-undergo na gumagawa ng mga animal studies, kung ano yung mga animal models na ginagawa for predicting antipsychotic action ng mga drugs. Yeah. So clinically, so let's go now to the clinical applications of your antipsychotic agents. So as we mentioned earlier, meron tayong mga psychiatric and non-psychiatric conditions. So sa mga psychiatric conditions, you have schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorders, manic phase of the bipolar disorder, Tourette syndrome, Alzheimer's disease, and psychotic depression. Then you also have the non-psychiatric conditions. So older drugs, with the exception of thyroidazine, have antiemetic effects. So due to the blockade of dopamine in the dopamine receptors in the chemoreceptor trigger zone, they are effective as antiemetic agents such as prochlorperazine and benzaquinamide. Relief of pruritus due to histamine 1 blockade, pre-oxidation such as promethazine, and pyridazine is used in the treatment of intractable hiccups. So the choice of antipsychotics is based mainly on the differences in their adverse effects and the possible differences in efficacy. Since yung use ng mga dating drugs, mga old drugs is still widespread, especially for patients being treated sa public sector. So importante na alam natin particularly two drugs, no, chlorpromazine and haloperidol. Pero I think now among the older agents, ang pinaka-importante would be haloperidol. Okay? So yung pinakatatandaan niyo dun sa mga lumang drugs. Yan. Tapos dun sa mga ano naman, yung mga ibang drugs pa, siguro yung mga bagong drugs, yun yung kailangan natin mas tandaan like clozapine, risperidone, olanzapine, quetiapine, ziprasidone, and aripiprazole. So each of these would have special benefits for selected patients. So itong table na to is parang representative group ng mga antipsychotic drugs. And yung choice nga niya is based nga dun sa sa mga possible na adverse effects and yung ating differences in efficacy. Pero ngayon, no, ang pinaka-preferred talaga currently would be the atypical antipsychotics. So new drugs, the atypical antipsychotics are preferred because of their greater efficacy in improving negative symptoms, and they can also they have less endocrinologic effects. However, for acute psychotic episodes, especially in patients in acute and chronic treatment, usually intramuscular preparations of older drugs are used. So yung mga haloperidol, and is still being used. Tapos, because of if cost is an issue, then older drugs are typically used. Yung mga newer drug kasi mas mahal siya, although better yung side effects niya. So maraming factors that can influence your choice, such as yung familiarity with effects. Pero ang pinaka-important na guide is the patient's response. So hindi mo kailangan talaga na familiar ka sa lahat ng mechanism and adverse effects ng isa-isa sa kanila. No? Although sabi nga natin, we lean towards your high-potency drugs for increased efficacy. And you need to take note of the significant na side effects which you earlier mentioned. So yung clozapine is actually one of the older drugs from the new classes. No? Pero limited lang yung use nito sa mga kung refractory na. No? Kasi pwede magkaroon ng agranulocytosis and seizures. So kaya while it is atypical, yung clozapine, hindi siya kaagad-agad binibigay. So yung mga among the new agents, ang common na binibigay would be risperidone, olanzapine, and quetiapine. Ito na yung mga doses. You don't need to memorize this. So you also have, kailangan ginagamit yung mga parenteral preparations. So these are usually of high potency, older drugs, and kung gusto used when you want rapid initiation and maintenance in non-compliant patients. So, pwede binibigay sila ng iba IM, no? Iba naman, wala pa ako na IV pero usually IM yung binibigay. Kasi pagka non-compliant, ibig sabihin, hindi sila umiinom regularly kanilang maintenance. So if you give intramuscularly, then you have greater control over these patients. Pang long-term maintenance. So dosage schedules, Usually, we divide it to the and titrate to the effective dose. And usually, preferred treatment is once daily at night, no? Para hindi siya masyado maka-experience ng mga autonomic na adverse effects. Now, for a small minority of patients, they may not require prolonged therapy, and you can give it as needed. No? But in most patients, this would require long-term treatment. So, kailangan silang bigyan ng long-term treatment. Now, drug combinations can confound your evaluation kung gumagana ba yung gamot. No? Pero, for patients, for example, with schizoaffective disorder, so kailangan mo talagang magbigay ng mga antidepressants or mood stabilizers. And kung masyadong agitated naman yung patient, pwede din bigyan ng sedatives. So sa adverse drug reactions naman, so na-mention na natin yung mga you have behavioral effects. So typical nakikita sa mga older typical antipsychotics. So there's also pseudodepression, which is drug-induced akinesia. And then you have toxic confusional states due to the antimuscarinic action. Tapos ito nga yung mga extrapyramidal symptoms, akathisia with dystonic reactions. Again, this is related to the dopamine receptor blockade. So, another example of your long-term neurologic effect would be tardive dyskinesia. So, management would be to discontinue the drug, to switch to newer agents, to eliminate all drugs with central anticholinergic action, and give diazepam to enhance GABAergic activity. The autonomic nervous system effects, I think na-mention na natin ito, no? Nasa table din naman yan kanina. Then you have the metabolic and endocrine effects. So, usually nakikita natin ito, yung weight gain, hyperglycemia, dun sa mga new agents, yung mga atypical agents. Pero sa typical agents, yung hyperprolactinemia, yung classical. Sa toxic or allergic reactions, I think we mentioned agranulocytosis, cholestatic jaundice, and skin eruption. So, take note, no, ang pinaka-limiting talaga na adverse effect ng clozapine would be agranulocytosis. So, and there's still question kung ano ba talaga yung bakit nagkakaroon ng granulocytosis. But what's important is that you monitor these patients on clozapine. So patients receiving clozapine must have weekly blood counts for the first 6 months of treatment and every 3 weeks thereafter just to ensure na hindi magkaroon ng granulocytosis. Kasi pwede mag-increase ng risk of infection. Then you have ocular complications such as corneal and reticular deposits with chlorpromazine and retinal deposits with thioridazine. And I think you already mentioned the cardiac toxicity with thioridazine, thixertindole, and ziprasidone a while ago. Now, neuroleptic malignant syndrome is the most important and most dangerous na life-threatening adverse effect ng prolonged use of typical antipsychotics. So, kanyang manifestation is similar to your malignant hyperthermia. So, there's muscle rigidity, impaired sweating, autonomic instability, and muscle damage. So, early management would be to give anti-Parkinsonism drugs, give muscle relaxants, and to reduce temperature by physical cooling measures. So ito lang yung summary ng characteristics of neuroleptic malignant syndrome, its cause, manifestation, and treatment. So you can look at this as you review for your exams. Interactions, usually additive, CNS effects, depending on the other drugs that the patient may be taking. So there will be additive CNS depressant effects, adrenal receptor blocking action, anticholinergic effects, and quinidine-like action. So quinidine is a sodium channel blocker. Yeah, so meron siyang ganung klaseng effects. Yeah, so This table just gives to you a comparative illustration ng side effects among the second generation agents, antipsychotic, and your haloperidol. So what we would typically see, no, pag among the new agents, yung mga metabolic, no, na effects. Pero if you look, ang pinakamarami dito yung clozapine talaga. No? So kaya kailangan, among the new agents, so kailangan babantayan yung mga pasyente na naka-clozapine. I think, so ito yung mga natin. So as you go down this table, we have decreasing sedation and cardiovascular effects increase, no, as you go down the list, and as you go up the list, you increase the Parkinsonism effects. Yeah, so this will just show to you the summary, no, of the characteristics of your antipsychotics, its mechanism, clinical use, adverse effects, and your therapeutic note. So please read through this, no? Nakasummarize naman dito. So pero please take note of this one, yung adverse effects and the clinical notes. Yan. So yan yung mga pwedeng lumabas sa exam. Okay? Kasi dito nakasummarize na yung mga important na characteristics. Okay? So let's proceed briefly na maiksi na lang itong part na to on lithium and other mood stabilizers. So pagka lithium and mood stabilizers, ginagamit ito during the manic episode. So last week you had your lecture on antidepressants, diba? But you had the concept of bipolar disorders. Wherein pwede siya mag-switch, no, from mania to depression. So sa aspect ng mania and bipolar disorders, ano bang goal natin dito? The primary goal is to prevent the switching. Prevent the switching from mania to depression. Gusto natin stable lang yung mood ng patients. Okay? So, pero yung lithium and the mood stabilizers would treat primarily the manic part. And it's important na when you have patients with mood disorders na ma-differentiate kung sila ba ay major depressive disorder or bipolar. Kasi kung bipolar disorder siya, tapos binigyan mo ng antidepressant, so what would happen? Pwedeng ma-precipitate yung manic episode. So, dapat tama yung diagnosis natin. Okay? So, ito yung mga titreat natin, no? ng lithium and the other drugs, no? Yung mga mood stabilizers, yung mga manic episodes, hypomanic episode, and bipolar disorder. So, this slide lists the preferred drugs, no, for bipolar disorders. But we focus only on lithium because the other drugs mentioned here are anticonvulsants, no? And we will have a separate lecture to describe their basic clinical pharmacology. So, but at this point, what is just important for you to know is that, atypical antipsychotics and some of your anticonvulsants can be used, as mood stabilizers. Okay, but their specific mechanism of action as mood stabilizers is unclear, and usually yung dose nila is not the same as your anticonvulsant dose. So this would review to you your concept of the specific and non-specific effects of your CNS acting drugs na pwedeng nag-iiba yung kanyang effect depending on the dose and also on how it is administered. Okay, so let's focus on lithium salts. So lithium it's an element, diba? And it's administered as a salt. So either as acetate or carbonate. It is used for prophylaxis in manic depressive patients and also in the acute treatment of manic episodes. There are several theories on how lithium works, no? But there is no clear explanation on how they are able to exactly stabilize the mood of the patient. So, pero ito yung mga theories niya, no? So they can act similarly like sodium in the body and affect multiple ion transport systems. They can also alter your inositol triphosphate levels, which are second messengers, di ba, sa ating mga muscarinic and alpha-adrenergic transmission. And they may also affect the activation of various G proteins in the body. So, pero none of these can directly parang explain how lithium is able to stabilize the mood. Ang pinaka-accepted theory nga dito yung pangalawa, yung alteration ng ating mga second messenger levels, which would alter muscarinic and alpha-adrenergic transmission. Lithium salts are given orally, and the ion is excreted in the kidney. So lithium salts have a very narrow therapeutic index and would typically require frequent monitoring. Kung walang available na therapeutic drug monitoring, then monitoring of symptoms. So, and usually the effect would be seen after 10 days of therapy. So in normal individuals, you don't see a noticeable effect. So it is also non-sedating, it is not a euphoriant, nor is it a depressant as well. Yeah. So despite its usefulness, lithium has a lot of known adverse effects. So CNS effects such as ataxia, tremors, and convulsions are seen. It can cause inhibition ng renal effects ng desmopressin. So it can cause what is known as drug-induced diabetes insipidus, which is nephrogenic. They can cause impaired thyroid function. So they can inhibit hormone release, which can clinically cause hypothyroidism. Although pwede pa rin euthyroid yung pasyente. So, but it can cause hypothyroidism. And lastly, lithium is a teratogenic agent. So it can cause what is known as Epstein anomaly, which is a cardiac malformation wherein there's apical displacement of the septal and posterior tricuspid valve leaflets and atrialization of the right ventricle. Panliliit yung right ventricle with a variable malformation and displacement of the anterior leaflet. Usually there's also an atrial septal defect. Yeah, so this is just to illustrate to you yung Epstein anomaly. It's a rare congenital heart defect in which yung tricuspid valve is incorrectly formed and positioned na lower than the usual. So kaya parang yung right ventricle, maliit siya. Then there's an atrial septal defect. So ito yung summary ng characteristics ng lithium. Again, pag nakita niyo itong ganitong klaseng format ng slide, please take note of its contents. Yan yung baka most likely lumabas sa exam. Then you have your other agents that are commonly used, pero you will be discussing these when you go to your lecture on anticonvulsants. Okay? I think this is the last slide. The remaining slides are just the summary of the key concepts that we discussed. So you can review these key concepts for your exams, upcoming exams. Do you have any questions? It's still early. It's 2:16. Do you have any questions?
None.
Naintindihan lahat. Sige. Okay, I will stop recording now.